The rain fell heavily that afternoon in the vast, rugged mountains of New Mexico. It wasn't a gentle shower or a passing storm. It was a torrential downpour that seemed to mirror the turbulence in the hearts of those beneath it. Thick mud splashed across the hems of women's skirts as they scrambled for shelter, their laughter and gossip replaced by gasps and shrieks. The men, however, remained where they stood, their weathered faces hardened by years of labor and loss, bartering over cattle as though thunder wasn't growling above and the sky wasn't threatening to collapse. The storm meant nothing to them. Business was business, and cattle was currency. Amid the thunder, the shrieking wind, and the scattered voices, a young woman made her way quietly across the muddy path. Her steps were light and deliberate, almost as if she wished not to disturb the earth beneath her. She was a ghost, moving among the living, invisible but present. Her name was Clara, and she was the youngest daughter of Don Ernesto Salazar, a powerful mestizo landowner known throughout the southern region. Feared for his explosive temper and respected for his wealth and influence, Don Ernesto commanded everything around him: land, livestock, and people. Don Ernesto had 5 children, but only one daughter, Clara. Unlike her older siblings who basked in attention and privilege, Clara was born into silence. She had a large, dark birthmark on her cheek, a strong and slightly pronounced jaw, and a quiet shyness that made her easy to overlook in a household where pride and appearance ruled. While her sisters married well, one to a textile merchant, another to a prominent doctor, and the third to a politician. Clara remained at home, ignored by suitors and rarely spoken of. Her mother, kind but resigned, would stroke her hair and whisper, "You're a good girl, my dear, but beauty was not meant for you." Clara accepted it as truth. At 20, Clara was called into the dining room one cold morning. Her father sat at the end of the long table, his back straight, his voice as icy as the winter wind. He didn't look at her, just spoke. "You're going to marry?" The word struck her like a slap. Her heart stuttered. No one had ever spoken to her of marriage. No quarters had ever come. Was this a chance at happiness, or just another way her life would be dictated for her? "With whom?" she asked, her voice trembling. "A Apache named Nahuel," he replied, as though announcing a trade deal. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Clara's eyes dropped to the floor. She had no illusions. Her father didn't care for her happiness. He saw her as a tool, a pawn to be exchanged in return for land. Nahuel was an indigenous man, someone Don Ernesto openly disdained, but whose alliance he needed to secure a deal. Clara's worth in that moment was reduced to a bargaining chip. 2 days later, without fanfare, without address, without so much as a hug from her mother, Clara was placed in a wooden cart and sent away, northward, toward unknown lands where the traditions of indigenous communities still thrived, though they faced scorn, prejudice, and the suffocating reach of modern civilization. When Clara arrived, Nahuel greeted her with a firm nod. His face bore no smile, but neither did it carry disdain. He was a man of few words, around 30, with braided black hair that shimmered like onyx, sun-kissed copper skin, and eyes that held ancient stories and unspoken pain. That first night, he spoke only to show her where she could sleep. He laid out blankets by the hearth and let the fire's crackle fill the silence between them. Clara cried softly into the night, the warmth of the fire doing little to reach the chill in her chest. The days that followed were hard and unfamiliar. Nahuel woke before the sun, collecting wood, foraging herbs, hunting game, and weaving tools with skilled hands. He did everything with quiet focus. Clara watched him cautiously, waiting for cruelty or control. But it never came. He never touched her without permission, never raised his voice, never demanded obedience. Instead, he offered her something she had never known: space, dignity, patience. Then the illness struck. Clara's body was racked with fever. Her breath came in shallow gasps, her throat raw from relentless coughing. She slipped in and out of delirium, caught between dreams and pain. Nahuel never left her side. He ground bitter herbs and placed poultices on her chest, trickled water between her lips, and hummed lullabies in a language she didn't understand. He thought she was asleep. But Clara heard him. His voice, low and melodic, wove into her fevered dreams like a warm blanket. And in that fragile state, she realized something profound. Someone cared whether she lived or died. As she regained her strength, Clara found herself drawn to the rhythms of this new life. She helped stoke the fire, learned to clean hides, and asked about the uses of roots and flowers. Nahuel answered with patience. Sometimes he teased her gently, and she would laugh, awkwardly at first, then with growing ease. One day, bending over a puddle of still water, she saw her reflection and paused. Her birthmark was still there, her jaw unchanged. But she didn't see a ghost anymore. She saw a woman with fire in her eyes. She stood taller, her shoulders squared, her steps confident. She had dignity now, a sense of belonging she had never known before. Gossip soon spread in nearby towns. Salazar's daughter lives with Apache. Some mocked, others pitied, but Clara remained unmoved. She stayed with Nahuel, not out of obligation, but choice. She learned his language, sat at his side during ceremonies, listened to elders speak of the land and stars. She absorbed his people's wisdom more grounded, more soulful than anything she had read in dusty books. She began to contribute to the community. She healed with herbs, comforted sick children, and told stories at nightfall. She started teaching the village girls to read, but more importantly, she taught them to value who they were. They weren't forgotten. They weren't lesser. Years passed. One morning, a messenger came with news. Don Ernesto was dying. He was asking to see his daughter. Clara and Nahuel traveled south. When they arrived at the estate, the staff and family fell into stunned silence. Clara entered wearing a modest dress, her braid trailing down her back like a banner. Her steps were assured, her gaze clear, no longer the shadow they once ignored. She stood before them, a woman carved by hardship but refined by love. She entered her father's room alone. He looked small in bed, a fading monument of a man. "I thought you would refuse," he rasped. Clara met his eyes. "You taught me I had no right to refuse." A long silence stretched between them. "Did he treat you well?" the old man asked. Clara breathed deeply. "Better than you ever did. He respected me. He saw me when you were too blind to look. He cherished me when you discarded me." A single tear escaped down Don Ernesto's cheek. That night, he passed away. Clara didn't cry. She felt no anger, no sadness, only peace. Her journey had led her through fire, but she had come out transformed. She returned to her home with Nahuel. Over the years, together, they helped build a school, a clinic, and a library in the Apache village. Clara continued to teach girls not just letters, but history, their history. She taught them to love their roots and be proud of their stories. And she told them her own, not with bitterness, but with pride, because she had learned the greatest lesson of all. True love is not born from desire, nor does it require physical perfection. It blossoms from the deep understanding and acceptance of another soul. It is patient, quiet, and unshakable. One golden evening, as the scent of firewood filled the air, a small girl tugged at her skirt. "Grandma Clara, how did you know Nahuel loved you?" Clara smiled, her heart warm with memory. "Because he never asked me to change," she said. "And even when I didn't love myself, he already did. Enough for both of us." Life doesn't always follow a fair path. Often we are thrown into trials that seem cruel, into roles we never chose. But sometimes, within those storms, we find the truest, most profound forms of love. This story reminds us that worth is never defined by appearance or by the validation of others. It is defined by the strength to love, to heal, and to remain true to ourselves. Real love does not seek perfection. It honors authenticity. And when it binds it, it changes everything it touches.